I found a grocery receipt in my husband's pocket dated yesterday, but he was supposed to be flying over the Atlantic. The receipt in his pocket was for a gallon of milk, a carton of eggs, and a pack of children's glitter markers, bought in a town he had never mentioned, exactly 2 hours ago, when he was supposed to be 30,000 feet over the Atlantic Ocean. That was the moment my entire reality fractured. I was standing in the laundry room, the hum of the washing machine vibrating against the soles of my feet, holding a crumpled piece of thermal paper that weighed more than the last 20 years of my life. My husband, David, was a senior captain for a major commercial airline. His schedule was my Bible. I knew his roster better than he did. I knew that he had left specifically for a 3-day rotation to London Heathrow yesterday morning. I had kissed him goodbye at the door. I had watched him load his rimless flight bag into the trunk of his car. I had waved as he backed out of the driveway, uniform pressed, cap on the passenger seat, looking every bit the dutiful provider he had been since the day we met. So why was I holding a receipt from a generic supermarket in a suburb called Oakhaven, dated yesterday at 4 p.m.? Oakhaven wasn't London. Oakhaven was a quiet, unassuming town about 90 miles north of our house. It was nowhere near the airport. It was nowhere near anything relevant to our lives. I stood there for a long time. The smell of his cologne, sandalwood and crisp linen, still clung to the navy blue pilot's jacket I was holding. Usually, that scent comforted me. It meant he was home safe. Now, it made my stomach turn. My first instinct, the one born of 2 decades of marriage, was to find a logical explanation. Maybe he had stopped on his way to the airport? No, the timestamp was wrong. He should have been in the air by 4 p.m. Maybe he gave his jacket to a friend? Ridiculous. Pilots don't swap uniforms. Maybe the receipt date was wrong? I walked into the kitchen and sat at the island, smoothing the crumpled paper out on the granite counter. My hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them together. I pulled out my phone and opened the airline's employee partner app. It was a perk for spouses; we could track their flights in real time. I typed in his flight number. Status: arrived. London Heathrow. He was in London. The system said he was in London. But the receipt said he was buying glitter markers in Oakhaven. My heart began to hammer against my ribs, a frantic, bird-like rhythm. I called his phone. It went straight to voicemail, which was standard for when he was abroad or sleeping after a red-eye. Hi, you've reached Captain David Miller. Leave a message. His voice sounded so steady, so trustworthy. I hung up without speaking. I didn't sleep that night. David was due back in 2 days. I had 48 hours to figure out if I was losing my mind or losing my marriage. I spent the night staring at the ceiling, analyzing every interaction Wed had over the last few years. He was attentive, mostly. He was tired a lot, but he flew international routes. Jet lag was part of the deal. He missed birthdays sometimes, but he always made up for it with lavish gifts. He was a good father to our sons, Josh and Caleb, who were now away at college. We were the empty nesters who had made it. We were the success story. By sunrise, the confusion had hardened into a cold, sharp resolve. I needed to know. I called in sick to work. I got in my car and typed the address of the supermarket from the receipt into my GPS. The drive took exactly 1 hour and 45 minutes. Oakhaven was a picture-perfect suburb, tree-lined streets, manicured lawns, minivans and driveways. It felt suffocatingly normal. I went to the supermarket first. I don't know what I expected to find there. Security footage? A confession? I walked the aisles, ghosting my fingers over the glitter markers in the stationery section. I bought a coffee I didn't drink and sat in my car in the parking lot, feeling like a stalker in my own life. Then, I remembered something. The car. David drove a practical sedan to the airport, leaving his vintage Mustang in the garage. But 3 years ago, he had insisted on buying a third car, a nondescript SUV, claiming it was for winter driving and keeping the miles off the other vehicles. He kept it parked at a storage unit near the airport because our garage was full. Or at least, that's what he told me. I drove around Oakhaven for hours. It was a needle in a haystack, a stupid plan. I was about to give up and drive home, convinced I was being paranoid, when I saw it. Parked in the driveway of a pale yellow two-story house on a cul-de-sac. The gray SUV. I slammed on my brakes, my seatbelt locking against my chest. I reversed slowly, my breath caught in my throat, and parked 3 houses down. I stared at the license plate. It was ours. That was David's car. The car that was supposed to be in a storage unit near JFK. I sat there for 4 hours. My legs went numb. My phone buzzed with emails from work, but I ignored them. I watched the house. It was a happy house. There was a wreath on the door. A bicycle on the lawn. At 3:30 p.m., the front door opened. My breath stopped. It wasn't David. It was a woman. She was younger than me, maybe late 30s. She had long, dark hair tied back in a messy bun, wearing yoga pants and a loose t-shirt. She looked tired but content. She walked down the driveway and opened the mailbox. Then, the door opened again. David walked out. He wasn't wearing his uniform. He was wearing jeans and a faded t-shirt I had bought him for Christmas 5 years ago. He was barefoot. He looked relaxed. He walked up behind the woman, wrapped his arms around her waist, and kissed her neck. She leaned back into him, laughing. It was a comfortable intimacy, the kind that comes from years of habit. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't a hotel room hookup. This was domesticity. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The air left my lungs in a painful wheeze. I watched my husband, the man who was supposed to be in London, spin this stranger around and kiss her on the lips. And then, the worst part happened. 2 little girls ran out of the house. They couldn't have been more than 6 and 8 years old. They had backpacks on. David broke the kiss and crouched down, opening his arms. The girls launched themselves at him. "Daddy, look!" One of them yelled. I could hear her voice clearly through my open window. "Daddy." The word echoed in my head, bouncing around until it turned into a scream I refused to let out. He picked up the smallest girl and swung her around. She was holding a drawing. He laughed, that deep, booming laugh that used to fill our house when our boys were small. He had a whole other life. He didn't just have a mistress, he had a wife. He had children. He had a mortgage in Oakhaven. He had glitter markers. I raised my phone and took pictures. My hands were shaking so hard the first few were blurry, but I steadied myself against the steering wheel. I took a video. I zoomed in on his face, on the car, on the woman, on the children. I documented the death of my marriage frame by frame. I didn't confront him. I didn't drive my car through their living room window, even though every fiber of my being wanted to destroy that yellow house. I knew that if I screamed now, I would lose the upper hand. And I needed the upper hand. I drove home in silence. The silence was heavy, oppressive. I walked into our house, our big, empty, lie of a house, and I went to work. David came home 2 days later, just as scheduled. He walked through the door wearing his uniform, dragging his flight bag. He looked exhausted. "Hey, honey," he said, dropping his bag. God, London was brutal. Delays on the tarmac for hours. I'm wiped. I was sitting in the living room, drinking tea. I looked at him. I looked at the man I had shared a bed with for 20 years, the man who had looked me in the eye and lied every single week for a decade. "Welcome home," I said. My voice was calm. It scared me how calm I was. "How was the flight?" "Long," he sighed, rubbing his neck. "Just want a shower and a beer." Did you get a chance to see anything in the city? I asked. He paused, just for a fraction of a second. Nah. Just the hotel room and room service. You know how it is. I do, I said. I know exactly how it is. I waited 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks were a special kind of hell. I had to play the role of the loving wife while my lawyer, a shark of a woman named Jessica, tore apart his finances. We found everything. We found the second bank account he funneled money into. We found the deed to the house in Oakhaven. It was in his name and the woman's name, Vanessa. We found birth certificates. The girls were 7 and 5. He had started this affair when I was nursing my dying mother. The betrayal wasn't just sexual, it was structural. He had built a parallel universe on the foundation of my ignorance. I learned that he bid for specific routes that gave him layovers that were actually just days off. He manipulated the system. He told Vanessa he was a pilot too, but he likely told her he was flying when he was with me. He was commuting between 2 lives, playing 2 roles, and failing neither, until he got sloppy with a receipt. On the day I decided to drop the hammer, David was in the kitchen making coffee. It was a Saturday. He wasn't flying. David, I said, walking into the kitchen. I was dressed. I had my purse. Yeah? He asked, not looking up from the French press. I need you to come to the living room. There's something on the TV you need to see. He frowned. What? Is it the news? Just come. He followed me into the living room. I had connected my laptop to the big screen TV. I picked up the remote and pressed play. The video started. It was the footage from my car. The yellow house. The gray SUV. David walking out in his t-shirt. Vanessa. The kiss. The children yelling daddy. The silence in the room was absolute. It was vacuum sealed. I watched his face. The color drained from it instantly, leaving him a gray, ashy wax figure. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. The footage looped. Daddy, look. Daddy, look. Sarah, he whispered. It was a strangled sound. Her name is Vanessa, I said coldly. And the girls are Ruby and Sam. Ruby is 7. Sam is 5. You missed Josh's graduation to be at Sam's 5th birthday party, didn't you? You said you were stuck in Dubai due to a sandstorm. He fell to his knees. I don't mean that metaphorically. His legs literally gave out. He crumpled onto the rug. Sarah, please. Let me explain. It's complicated. It's not complicated, I said, standing over him. It's actually very simple. You are a bigamist. You are a liar. And you are homeless. What? He looked up, tears streaming down his face. Sarah, don't do this. I love you. I love her too. I didn't know how to stop. It happened. I spoke to Vanessa this morning, I said. That was the blow that broke him. His eyes went wide with terror. I didn't want to, I continued, my voice trembling slightly for the first time. But she deserved to know as much as I did. I sent her the photos. I sent her a copy of our marriage license. I sent her a picture of Josh and Caleb. She didn't know, David. She thought you were divorced. You told her we were divorced 10 years ago. He put his head in his hands and sobbed. It was a pathetic, ugly sound. My lawyer has already filed the papers, I said, walking towards the door. Eve frozen the joint accounts. The locks were changed an hour ago while you were in the shower. This key is the only one that works, and I'm taking it. Your bags are on the front porch. I suggest you go to Oakhaven, although I don't think Vanessa is going to open the door either. I opened the front door. The cool air hit my face. "Sarah!" he screamed, scrambling up to follow me. "You can't just end 20 years like this. We can go to counseling." "I'll leave her. I swear I'll leave her." I turned back to him one last time. "You don't have to leave her, David. You don't have anyone left to leave." I walked out, got into my car, and drove away. I watched him in the rearview mirror, standing on the porch of the house he no longer owned, surrounded by suitcases, screaming at a car that wasn't coming back. It's been 6 months. The divorce is messy, brutal, and expensive. He lost his job. Turns out airlines don't like it when their captain's mental stability and moral character are publicly imploding, especially when the story hits the local news. Vanessa left him too. She sued him for fraud. I'm living in a smaller apartment now. It's quiet. Sometimes, I still wake up reaching for him, forgetting for a split second that he isn't there. But then I remember the glitter markers. I remember the lie. And I go back to sleep, alone, but real.